Summer 1940. The drone of engines fills the skies over England, heralding the approaching storm of steel. In a deafening crescendo, the Luftwaffe, the once invincible air force of the Third Reich, unleashed its most audacious gamble to bend the spine of Great Britain, the last stronghold of freedom in a Europe subjugated by the shadow of the swastika. And tearing through the clouds with voracious speed and terrifying precision, the Messerschmitt Bf 109 appears. More than a mere aircraft, this German fighting machine was an expression of the power of aeronautical engineering that, in its early days, seemed to dictate the rules of war in the skies. But why did this particular aircraft instill such fear in Royal Air Force pilots? What was its hidden secret? Why did this weapon, for a brief and crucial period, threaten to tip the scales of the Battle of Britain in favor of Nazi Germany, and with it, the fate of entire nations? Prepare to delve into the depths of aeronautical innovation and unravel the mystery behind this aircraft, the weapon that promised German victory in British skies.
To understand the birth of the Bf 109, we must travel back in time to a landscape of constraints and ambition. Behind this war machine stood the visionary Wilhelm Messerschmitt. A young German engineer, Messerschmitt was consumed by an overwhelming passion for speed, pure lines, and the relentless pursuit of efficiency. In a historical period marked by destruction and uncertainty, he stood out as a visionary. Germany, prostrated by the heavy chains imposed by the Treaty of Versailles at the end of the Great War, saw its aircraft industry severely limited. It was in this environment of scarcity that Messerschmitt's journey into aviation had its humble beginnings, paradoxically not with the fast fighters that would make him famous, but with the most basic form of flight, gliders. His mastery of aerodynamic principles and his keen eye for lightweight, structurally efficient design soon set him apart, attracting the attention of a company emerging powerfully in the German industrial landscape, Bayerische Flugzeugwerke, or simply BABF. BABF entrusted Messerschmitt with a clear and pragmatic mission: to design aircraft for the tourism market. It was during this fertile creative period that the Bf 108 Typhoon was born. Although designed for civilian purposes, the Typhoon was a revolutionary aircraft for its time. It incorporated innovative solutions that would become the hallmarks of Messerschmitt's genius: retractable landing gear, which swallowed the wheels into the fuselage and thereby drastically reduced aerodynamic drag; a fully enclosed cockpit, providing occupants with unprecedented comfort and, crucially, superior aerodynamics; and finally, fluid, elegant lines that maximized speed and flight efficiency. This elegant touring aircraft, at its core, served as a flying laboratory, a stage for experimenting with ideas that would soon be applied in a much darker, more warlike context. With the Nazi regime's relentless rise to power and the subsequent and initially secret resumption of military production in Germany, Messerschmitt saw the opportunity to apply all his accumulated knowledge and undeniable talent to a project of much greater magnitude. Building on the innovations and design principles exhaustively tested in the successful Bf 108, he brought to life the prototype of what would become the legendary Bf 109. His vision was crystal clear: to create a light, compact fighter and, most importantly, designed for efficient and rapid mass production, capable of being assembled on production lines quickly and in large numbers. The Bf 109 incorporated engineering solutions considered cutting edge for the 1930s, such as automatic slats installed on the leading edges of the wings, devices that significantly improved lift at low speeds and in aerial combat maneuvers, giving the aircraft greater control in critical situations, and strategically concentrated armament in the nose of the aircraft, a configuration designed to achieve maximum precision and devastating firepower aimed directly at the target. The end result was a machine that seemed to defy the very laws of physics, an aerial predator born from the determination and genius of an engineer who yearned to take Germany to the skies. Before the Messerschmitt Bf 109 could cross paths with Britain's formidable fighters in the skies over England, it was mercilessly thrust into a brutal and incredibly revealing test of fire, the Spanish Civil War. This bloody conflict, which erupted in 1936, transcended the realm of mere internal dispute, becoming an unofficial proving ground for new military doctrines and weapons equipment that would be widely employed in the impending global conflagration. Nazi Germany, in support of the nationalist forces led by General Francisco Franco, sent its elite air force, the celebrated Condor Legion. The Bf-109, still in its early production versions as the 109B and 109C models, flew alongside Heinkel and Junkers bombers, encountering its adversaries in the skies for the first time, the Soviet Polikarpov I-15 Chaika and I-16 Rada fighters, which supported the Republican forces. The aerial clashes that unfolded over Spanish territory were intense, vicious, and, above all, extremely enlightening. The early iterations of the Bf-109 demonstrated surprising effectiveness at high altitudes, surpassing their Soviet-built opponents in terms of top speed and especially their climbability, climbing to greater altitudes with impressive agility. This remarkable aerodynamic superiority allowed German pilots to dictate the pace of many of the engagements, choosing when and how to engage the enemy. More than a mere endurance test for the machine, the Spanish Civil War served as a veritable laboratory for the evolution of aerial combat tactics. It was during this period that a promising young Luftwaffe lieutenant, Werner Mölders, revolutionized the way fighters operated in combat. Mölders, carefully observing the limitations inherent in the rigid and overly tight combat formations that were standard at the time, developed an innovative formation that would become known as the Four Fingers. This formation, radically different from anything seen before, replaced the closed and consequently more vulnerable groupings with a more spaced out and incredibly flexible arrangement of 4 aircraft flying in a configuration reminiscent of the fingers of an open hand. Each pair of aircraft within the quartet could mutually protect the other, in addition to having the ability to react more independently to emerging threats, dramatically increasing the pilot's situational awareness and maneuverability in the midst of frenetic aerial combat. The Finger 4 formation allowed German pilots to exploit the Bf-109's speed and agility much more effectively, transforming it into a true predator in the skies of Spain. The results of this tactical innovation were impressive. By the end of the conflict, Luftwaffe pilots operating the Bf-109 in the Spanish Civil War had recorded a total of 313 confirmed kills of enemy aircraft, a figure that not only underscored the inherent lethality of the new German fighter, but also attested to the effectiveness of the aerial combat tactics being developed and refined. The Spanish Civil War, therefore, not only validated the Bf-109 as a fighter of undeniable superiority over its contemporaries, but also forged the combat doctrines that would be applied on a much larger scale, with devastating consequences, just a few years later. With the sudden and devastating fall of France in June 1940, the Third Reich, under the ruthless leadership of Adolf Hitler, turned its sinister attention to the last bastion of resistance in Western Europe, Great Britain. The planned invasion of the island, codenamed Operation Sea Lion, represented the next logical and inexorable step in the march of the Nazi war machine. However, for this complex and extremely ambitious operation to even be seriously considered, a fundamental prerequisite was required: the establishment of total air dominance over the turbulent waters of the English Channel and over British territory itself. Without this supremacy in the skies, the German Navy and Army would find themselves irrevocably exposed to the air power of the Royal Air Force. Thus, the Luftwaffe launched a massive and brutal air offensive that would go down in history as the Battle of Britain. The primary objective of this campaign was the annihilation of the Royal Air Force, which would pave the way for the long-awaited ground invasion. The German bomber force was truly imposing, composed of 3 of the most effective bomber units of the time: the versatile Heinkel 111, which proved adaptable to a variety of missions; the fast and robust Junkers Ju-88, known for its speed and payload; and the efficient Dornier Do-17 medium bomber. Vital protection for these numerous bomber formations was provided by the latest and most advanced version of the Messerschmitt Bf 109, the E model, affectionately nicknamed EMO by its pilots. The EMO was, without a doubt, a formidable war machine, fast, agile, and boasting considerable firepower for its time. Its remarkable climbability and high horizontal speed made it an extremely dangerous opponent in the skies. However, the Bf 109E had a serious flaw, a limitation that would prove crucial and ultimately decisive in the epic battle that unfolded. Its flight range was extremely limited. Bf 109s could cross the waters of the English Channel and escort bombers over British territory, but they had only a few precious minutes of fuel left to engage in combat before being irretrievably forced to return to base. This restriction imposed a severe tactical limitation on the Luftwaffe, forcing the agile German fighters to abandon their vulnerable bombers deep in enemy territory, leaving them at the mercy of relentless RAF counterattacks. Despite this significant logistical disadvantage, in the crucial first days and weeks of the Battle of Britain, the kill ratio was decidedly favorable to the German pilots. Despite the gradual numerical superiority of pilots and aircraft that the RAF was able to mobilize with increasing effort, the Luftwaffe seemed to consistently prevail in direct aerial combat. The reason for this apparent discrepancy lay not primarily in the intrinsic skill of German pilots or in an overall tactical superiority per se, but rather in a crucial difference, until then little understood by the British: the superior firepower of German armament.
While the legendary British fighters, the elegant Supermarine Spitfire and the robust Hawker Hurricane, relied predominantly on a standardized armament consisting of 8 7.7mm Browning machine guns to target and pierce enemy fuselages, the Messerschmitt Bf 109E boasted a deadly trump card, a technological difference that significantly tipped the scales of firepower in the skies: the 20mm MG-FFM automatic cannon. This formidable weapon was no mere appendage or secondary armament. It was the very heart of the Emil's destructive power. The cannon's strategic location and innovative configuration were as important as its destructive power. The MG-FFM was cleverly mounted within the aircraft's propeller hub, an ingenious design solution that concentrated the armament on the plane's central axis. It fired its powerful projectiles directly through the hollow shaft of the Daimler-Benz DB601 engine, a configuration that became known as the Motor Kanone. This engineering solution was considered rare and extremely advanced for its time, as it allowed the shots to follow a trajectory perfectly aligned with the fighter's flight line, ensuring lethal accuracy in aerial engagements. The impact of a single 20mm caliber projectile was drastically different from that of a 7.7mm caliber bullet. While Browning machine guns pierced the metal of the fuselage, the MG-FFM's projectiles were designed to explode inside the enemy aircraft. This intrinsic explosive capability meant that a single, well-placed hit could cause catastrophic damage, often instantly incapacitating the enemy aircraft. In the fast-paced, frenetic dogfights so characteristic of the Battle of Britain's aerial engagements, 1 or 2 short bursts lasting just 2 seconds were often more than enough to turn a nimble enemy fighter into a free-falling, out-of-control fireball. The difference was enormous. It wasn't just about piercing the enemy's bodywork, but disintegrating it from within, compromising its structure and vital systems. Although its rate of fire was relatively slower compared to machine guns and ammunition was scarce, averaging only 60 rounds per mission, the MG-FFM's impressive destructive capacity more than made up for these limitations. Each projectile delivered a massive amount of kinetic energy and, crucially, an explosive charge, making each shot a potentially fatal blow. It was a clear distinction between causing superficial damage and ensuring the complete destruction of the target.
This secret cannon, cleverly integrated into the Bf-109's design, was not just another weapon. It was the manifestation of the German philosophy of concentrated firepower, a doctrine that would test the resilience of young RAF pilots in the skies over Britain.
The MGFFM cannon was not only an inherently powerful weapon, it represented a tool that required a specific tactical approach, a philosophy of aerial combat that perfectly aligned with the Messerschmitt Bf 109's unique capabilities. Experienced Luftwaffe pilots quickly understood the importance of utilizing the 20mm cannon not as a machine gun intended for saturation, but rather as a surgical blade, an instrument of lethal precision. Their tactics were meticulously honed to maximize the impact of this formidable weapon, prioritizing elements such as closing speed, fire accuracy, and the crucial element of surprise. One of the most effective and frequently employed tactics by astute Bf 109 pilots was to launch lightning attacks from a superior position. Taking advantage of the altitude advantage and the considerable diving speed inherent in the Bf 109's design, German pilots often strategically position themselves above their opponents, often utilizing the blinding glare with sun as an ingenious disguise to momentarily blind enemy pilots. This tactical approach allowed them to gain a tremendous advantage in kinetic energy and speed, turning the force of gravity itself into a powerful ally. The rapid dive created a window of opportunity for a sudden, overwhelming, and often decisive attack, catching the target completely off guard and at a significant energy disadvantage. Unlike conventional machine guns, which could fire long, continuous bursts of projectiles, the MGFFM cannon had a limited amount of ammunition. This crucial factor meant that each projectile fired had significant strategic and tactical value. Pilots were rigorously trained to fire short, extremely precise, and carefully controlled bursts, often consisting of bursts lasting only 1 or 2 seconds. This trigger discipline was absolutely essential to maximize the cannon's effectiveness and, equally important, to avoid wasting valuable ammunition. The philosophy behind this tactic was clear. Hit the target with 1 or 2 explosive hits from a 20mm shell, rather than saturating it with dozens of smaller caliber rounds that might not cause immediate critical damage. The innovative German air combat doctrine, masterfully perfected by Mölders and other Luftwaffe aces, consistently emphasized the importance of mutual cover between aircraft and the maintenance of acute situational awareness by each pilot. The Finger 4 formation, composed of 4 aircraft flying in 2 coordinated pairs, with each member of one pair readily covering the other, proved ideal for this strategic approach. This remarkably flexible formation allowed pilots to support each other in combat, detect potential threats earlier, and conduct coordinated attacks with surprising effectiveness. While one pilot focused on delivering a precise strike using the MGFFM cannon, his wingman remained constantly vigilant for any emerging threat, protecting his flank and rear. This tactical synergy between the pilots, combined with the application of the efficient hit-and-run tactic known as boom and zoom, which exploited the Bf 109's superior speed to launch quick, devastating attacks followed by a swift retreat, exponentially increased the lethality of the 20mm cannon. In short, the MGFFM was not a weapon designed for prolonged, circling aerial combat, a type of engagement that typically favored the Royal Air Force's more agile fighters. It was rather a weapon designed for decisive attack, a tool for rapid, brutal, and often fatal impact. Luftwaffe pilots masterfully utilized the MGFFM to transform the Messerschmitt Bf 109 into a fighter that not only faced the enemy head-on, but destroyed them with terrifying efficiency, cementing its reputation as a formidable aerial predator.
The intrinsic leality of the Messerschmitt Bf 109
particularly when equipped with its ingenious MGFF-M cannon, was exponentially amplified by the extraordinary skill, undeniable audacity, and tactical expertise of the men who had the honor and responsibility of flying it in combat. The Luftwaffe, during the height of its power, produced a veritable constellation of flying aces, pilots who not only mastered the sophisticated machine, but also contributed significantly to shaping the aerial combat doctrine that would be employed on a global scale. His legendary exploits in the skies of the Battle of Britain, as well as on countless other fronts of World War II, remain testament to the formidable effectiveness of the combination of cutting-edge technology and undeniable human talent. Adolf Galland, a name synonymous with excellence and leadership in the Luftwaffe. Adolf Galland stood out not only for his impressive tally of over 100 confirmed aerial combat victories, but also for his charismatic leadership and a lifestyle considered quite unusual for a high-ranking officer in the German army. Known for his peculiar habit of flying with a lit cigar firmly clamped between his lips, a small pleasure that distinguished him and humanized him amid the coldness of war, Galland was a natural tactician and an exceptionally accurate marksman. He possessed a profound understanding of the capabilities of the Bf 109 and especially the destructive power of its MGFF-M cannon, using it with calculating coolness to dismantle entire formations of enemy aircraft. His aggressive approach to combat, coupled with his remarkable ability to inspire his subordinates, made him a legendary figure in the annals of military aviation, and he was a staunch and articulate advocate of the inherent superiority of concentrated firepower in aerial combat. Werner Mölders, widely considered by many historians and experts to be the true father of modern aerial combat tactics, Werner Mölders was much more than just a flying ace. He was a visionary innovator who revolutionized the way fighters engaged in combat. While his impressive aerial victory tally also surpassed 100 enemy aircraft shot down, his greatest legacy lies in the creation and subsequent popularization of the innovative Finger 4 combat formation. This formation, detailed above, represented a paradigm shift in aerial combat, providing pilots with greater tactical flexibility, significantly improved situational awareness, and remarkably superior effectiveness in both attack and defense. Mölders was a brilliant strategist, a master of the complex art of the aerial hunt. Unfortunately, his promising career was tragically cut short in a plane crash in November 1941, but his profound influence on Luftwaffe doctrine, and by extension, military aviation as a whole, is immortal and continues to be studied to this day. He demonstrated unequivocally that refined technique and efficient tactical organization could often overcome mere enemy numerical superiority. Hans-Joachim Marcel, affectionately nicknamed the Star of Africa by his squadron mates and German propaganda, Marcel is recognized as one of the most fascinating and in some ways controversial aces in the history of combat aviation. Although he spent most of his relatively short career in the scorching North African desert, his remarkable combat tactics and proficient use of the Messerschmitt Bf 109 were intrinsically linked to the philosophy of concentrated firepower, provided primarily by its 20mm cannon. Marcel was particularly known for his phenomenal ability to deliver incredibly accurate deflection shots and for his audacity and composure in individual dogfights. He perfected the art of predicting an opponent's movements with almost supernatural accuracy and firing with lethal accuracy at very close range. In an utterly extraordinary and almost unbelievable feat, Marcel shot down no fewer than 17 enemy aircraft in a single day of combat, a record that remains virtually unmatched to this day.
Hans-Joachim Marcel embodied the idea that a single pilot, equipped with a superior machine and devastating weaponry, could, through his own skill and determination, tip the scales of an aerial combat in his favor. These flying aces, along with many other talented and courageous Luftwaffe pilots, were not merely fearless individuals who took to the skies in search of glory. They were true masters of their craft, tirelessly dedicating themselves to honing their skills and studying combat tactics. They demonstrated unequivocally that, even facing a growing numerical superiority on the part of the RAF, and despite the inherent limitations of the Messerschmitt Bf 109 itself, the application of refined technique combined with the intelligent and effective use of cutting-edge equipment, such as the powerful MG-FFM cannon, could level the playing field in the unforgiving skies over Europe during World War II. Their actions and exploits transformed the Bf 109 from a mere war machine into an enduring symbol of excellence, innovation, and, for many, sheer terror during the first and most intense years of the global conflict.
Despite the undeniable firepower of the MG-FFM cannon and the brilliant engineering that powered the Messerschmitt Bf 109, the pursuit of air supremacy never comes without a cost. Like any complex and sophisticated war machine, the ML possessed its own vulnerabilities and limitations, which became increasingly evident as the Battle of Britain dragged on for relentless weeks and months, and the Royal Air Force, with increasing determination, refined its tactics and air defenses. First and foremost, the MG-FFM cannon was undeniably a heavy system. Although the Bf 109 was originally designed to be a light and extremely agile aircraft, the inclusion of the 20mm cannon within the propeller hub, coupled with the considerable weight of its ammunition, added significant mass to the aircraft's nose. This extra weight, while contributing to greater stability in straight flight and at high speeds, slightly compromised the fighter's agility in some tighter, high-intensity combat maneuvers, making it somewhat less responsive than its main British opponents in certain tight turns and turn-ins. In frenetic dogfights, where agility and the ability to execute rapid turns were crucial to survival, this disadvantage, however small, could be exploited by skilled pilots. Secondly, the ammunition available for the MG-FFM cannon was considered scarce, especially compared to the standard machine guns of British fighters. With an average of only 60 rounds per mission, German pilots were constantly reminded of the need for extreme discipline and parsimoniousness with their precious fire. This contrasted sharply with Spitfires and Hurricanes, which could unleash thousands of 7.7mm rounds on their targets during a single engagement. The inherent need for short, extremely precise, and carefully controlled bursts meant that an effective attack with the MG-FFM required not only a clear opportunity to engage, but also impeccable aim on the part of the pilot, leaving very little margin for error or inaccurate fire. If a pilot wasted his few bursts of ammunition, he quickly found himself deprived of his main offensive asset. Finally, and perhaps the most chronic and decisive weakness of the Luftwaffe throughout the Battle of Britain, was its over-reliance on Bf 109s to escort its bombers over British territory, coupled with its inexplicable lack of long-range fighters suitable for this crucial mission. The MLs, as already mentioned, had an extremely limited flight range, which inevitably meant that after only a few minutes of combat over England, they were forced to abandon their vulnerable bomber formations and begin the long return journey to their air bases in France. This limitation left Heinkel, Junkers, and Dornier bombers dangerously exposed to relentless counterattacks from agile RAF fighters on their own turf, where the British air defense network was strongest, most organized, and best coordinated. The Luftwaffe simply lacked a fighter escort capable of flying long distances, remaining engaged for prolonged periods, and crucially, returning to its home base. This doctrinal and design flaw, surprising given the renowned deficiency of German engineering, ultimately proved fatal to the German bombing campaign over Britain.
As the weeks and months of battle passed relentlessly, the British did not remain inert. They drastically improved their air defense strategies, learning from each attack and adapting their tactics. The innovative network of radar stations, affectionately nicknamed Chain Home, provided crucial early warning of the approach of numerous German formations, allowing the RAF to direct its interceptor fighters much more efficiently and strategically. This sophisticated ground control system, with its well-organized operations rooms, coordinated squadrons in real time, maximizing the chances of intercepting enemy aircraft. The implementation of a pilot rotation system allowed the RAF to keep its fighters rested and always ready for battle, while the Luftwaffe pilots suffered under the constant pressure of successive missions, often without adequate rest. And crucially, the British exploited the invaluable advantage of fighting over their own territory. RAF pilots shot down in combat could often be rescued and returned to action within hours, while German pilots shot down over England were, in the vast majority of cases, captured or killed. The Battle of Britain therefore became a grueling duel of attrition, a battle of constantly evolving strategies and remarkable resilience on both sides. It would not be won by fire and metal alone. The devastating power of a single 20mm cannon or the sheer speed of a fighter jet. It would be won by the ability to adapt to new threats, the efficiency of logistics, the quality of military intelligence, and above all, by the unwavering determination of a nation to defend its freedom at any cost.
The Messerschmitt Bf 109 wasn't just a fighter that participated in the crucial Battle of Britain. It established itself as a central pillar of the Luftwaffe throughout World War II and rose to the status of a true icon of military aviation. Its production, which continued uninterrupted until the final chaotic days of the conflict in May 1945, reached the impressive milestone of over 33,000 units built, making it to this day the most manufactured single-engine fighter in aviation history. This extraordinary number alone unequivocally attests to its significant relevance and remarkable effectiveness throughout the turbulent years of a global war that redefined the world. However, the Bf 109's vast legacy far transcends the mere description of its cannons and the record of its countless aerial combat victories. It profoundly influenced air combat tactics, undoubtedly validating the importance of maximum speed, high climb capability, and concentrated firepower in the design of high-performance fighters. The innovative Finger 4 doctrine and the efficient boom and zoom tactics, which the Bf 109 helped popularize and refine, quickly became standards that would be meticulously studied and widely adapted by air forces around the world. The Messerschmitt Bf 109 not only participated in the history of military aviation, it actively wrote it with its remarkable innovations in the design and very conception of fighter aircraft. Its lasting influence extended to the development of fighter design in the post-war period. Pioneering concepts such as lightweight and structurally efficient construction, the ingenious integration of the engine and armament in the nose of the aircraft, and the relentless pursuit of improved aerodynamics to achieve ever higher speeds, continued to be explored and refined in every subsequent generation of jet fighter aircraft. The Bf 109, with its unmistakable silhouette and legendary combat record, still evokes intense passions, sparks heated debate among historians and aviation enthusiasts, and generates undeniable admiration for its advanced engineering and its indelible role in the history of military aviation. It is an enduring symbol of renowned German ingenuity and the golden age of aerial combat waged in the skies of World War II. However, perhaps the Bf 109's most profound and lasting legacy is not merely technical or tactical. It serves as a vivid and poignant reminder that even with all the sophistication of cutting-edge technology, the most powerful engines ever conceived, and the most devastating armaments ever produced, it is ultimately the men and women who make the true difference on the unforgiving battlefield. The unwavering courage, exceptional skill, remarkable resilience, and ability to innovate in times of crisis demonstrated by pilots and military strategists are ultimately the decisive factors that shape the fate of conflicts and the course of history. The Messerschmitt Bf 109 was undoubtedly a formidable weapon, but it was the human hand wielding this weapon that ultimately decided whether it would be used as an instrument of victory or a harbinger of defeat.
And now, I genuinely want to know your perspective on this fascinating chapter in aviation history. If the Luftwaffe had at its disposal, in the fateful summer of 1940, truly effective long-range fighters capable of escorting its vulnerable bombers for the entire duration of their dangerous missions over England, and if it had more crucial time to consolidate its aerial dominance in British skies, without the incessant pressures and urgencies imposed by an increasingly impatient Adolf Hitler, would the course of the epic Battle of Britain have been fundamentally altered? Would the fate of Great Britain, and consequently that of World War II itself, have taken an irrevocably different historical course? Leave your valuable comment below, sharing your thoughts and perspectives on this intriguing scenario. If you, like us, are passionate about the rich history of military aviation and the incredible engineering that shaped our world, subscribe to our channel for more fascinating stories like this. And please don't hesitate to share this video with all those who share the same passion. Because on the complex board of war, every strategic move counts, and war is undeniably made of elaborate strategies and advanced technology. But it is also, and perhaps most importantly, made of crucial choices, made by men and women in moments of extreme pressure. Choices that can change the course of history forever.